The echo of her father's violin still haunted Elena Rodriguez every time she walked past the gleaming concert hall on Fifth Avenue. 23 years had passed since his calloused hands last held a bow, since his dreams of Carnegie Hall crumbled beneath medical bills and the relentless weight of providing for his family. Now, at 58, Elena pushed her janitor's cart through those same marble corridors where her father had once dared to dream, her heart carrying melodies she'd never learned to play. "Another fancy fundraiser tonight," muttered Tom, the security guard, as Elena wheeled her supplies toward the main auditorium. "CEO's bringing in some hotshot violinist from Vienna. Tickets are $2,000 each." Elena nodded silently, remembering how her father used to save every penny just to buy standing room tickets to hear the masters play. She'd been 7 when he'd whispered to her in broken English, "Mija, music is the language of the soul. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. When you hear Bruch's violin concerto, you touch heaven." The Meridian Corporation's CEO, Victoria Sterling, was known throughout the city for her razor-sharp business acumen and equally sharp tongue. At 42, she'd built an empire in tech while maintaining a passion for classical music that bordered on obsession. Her penthouse apartment housed a collection of rare instruments worth millions, though she herself had never mastered any. As Elena began cleaning the concert hall's crystal chandeliers, Victoria's voice cut through the afternoon silence like a blade. "The acoustics in here better be perfect tonight, Marcus," Victoria snapped at her assistant. "I'm paying Heinrich Müller a fortune to perform Bruch's Concerto No. 1. If there's even a whisper of background noisy—" "Ma'am," Marcus interrupted hesitantly, "there's been a complication. Mr. Muller's flight from Vienna was cancelled due to the storm. He won't make it." Victoria's face went white. 300 of the city's elite were expecting an evening of transcendent music, and she'd promised them the impossible, a performance that would transport them beyond their gilded cages. "Find me another violinist," she commanded. "I don't care what it costs." At 6 hours' notice, "Ma'am, every professional in the city is either booked or are." "Then find an amateur." "Someone from Gilead." "Anyone." Elena had been quietly dusting nearby, invisible as always. But something in Victoria's desperation stirred a memory of her father's voice echoing in their tiny Bronx apartment. "The music doesn't care about your bank account, Elena. It only cares about your heart." Before she could stop herself, Elena stepped forward. "Excuse me," she said softly. Victoria spun around, noticing the janitor for the first time. "What?" Elena's hands trembled as she gripped her cleaning cloth. I might know someone who could help." Victoria's laugh was sharp and dismissive. "Unless you know a world-class violinist hiding in your supplely closet, I doubt it." "My father," Elena continued, her voice steadying, "he used to play. He taught me when I was young. I still remember some pieces." "Your father?" Victoria's eyes narrowed. "And where did he study?" "Gilead, Curtis." "The streets of Mexico City," Elena replied quietly. "Then night school here." "He cleaned offices to pay for lessons." Victoria's expression hardened. "Look, I'm sure your father was talented for an amateur. But this is Bruch's Violin Concerto No. 1 in G minor. It's one of the most technically demanding pieces ever written. My guests expect perfection." Elena finished. "I understand." Something in Elena's tone made Victoria pause. There was no defiance, no anger, just a quiet dignity that Victoria had rarely encountered in her steel and glass world. "Fine," Victoria said with cruel amusement. "If you think you can play Bruch, the hall is yours." She smirked, certain she was calling an impossible bluff. "But when you fail, Don't expect to keep your job here." Marcus looked horrified. "Miss Sterling, perhaps we should." "No," Elena said softly. "It's okay." She looked directly at Victoria. "Could someone find an instrument?" An hour later, Elena stood alone on the stage where legends had performed, holding a violin that cost more than she earned in 5 years. Her father's words whispered in her memory, "Music is not about the instrument, Mija. It's about the soul speaking through your fingers." Victoria sat in the front row, arms crossed, surrounded by her guests who had arrived expecting world-class entertainment. The murmur of confusion rippled through the audience as they saw the woman in a custodial uniform standing where Heinrich Müller should have been. Elena closed her eyes and raised the violin to her chin. Her fingers, rough from decades of cleaning supplies and hard work, found their positions as if guided by muscle memory older than consciousness itself. The first note hung in the air like a prayer. What followed defied every assumption Victoria had ever held about talent, class, and worth. Elena's bow moved across the strings with a tenderness that spoke of midnight practice sessions in cramped apartments, of a father's love translated through melody, of dreams deferred but never abandoned. This wasn't just technical proficiency, though her technique was flawless. This was music that carried the weight of struggle, the beauty of sacrifice, the profound dignity of those who persist despite being overlooked. Every note seemed to say, "We are here, we matter, our dreams are worthy." As Elena moved through the concerto's soaring passages, Victoria felt something crack open inside her chest. She'd spent her life acquiring, achieving, proving her worth through accumulation. But this woman, now this janitor she'd dismissed without a thought, was offering something Victoria had never learned to give, her whole heart. Tears began streaming down Victoria's face as Elena played the concerto's most demanding passages with a precision that would have made Müller himself applaud. But it wasn't the technical mastery that broke Victoria's heart, it was the love. The pure, uncomplicating love that transformed every note into something sacred. The audience sat in stunned silence. These were people who attended charity galas and museum openings, who spoke casually of their summer homes and winter escapes. Yet here, in this moment, they were witnessing something that transcended their carefully constructed hierarchies, the raw power of human dignity expressed through art. When Elena lowered her bow, the silence stretched for an eternity before exploding into thunderous applause. People were standing, crying, their faces reflecting the same profound recognition Victoria felt, that they had just witnessed something holy. Victoria rose on unsteady legs and walked to the stage. Elena stood quietly, still holding the violin, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "I'm sorry," Victoria whispered, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry." Elena smiled, and in that smile was forgiveness Victoria hadn't earned but desperately needed. "Your father," Victoria continued, struggling to speak through her tears, "he must have been extraordinary." "He was just a man who believed music could build bridges," Elena replied gently. "He always said the most beautiful performances come from the most broken hearts." Later that night, as Elena carefully cleaned the violin before returning it to its case, Victoria approached her with an envelope. "This is yours," Victoria said. "Your fee for tonight." Elena shook her head. "I didn't do this for money." "I know," Victoria replied. "That's exactly why you deserve it." She paused. Would you consider giving me lessons? I'd like to learn. Really learn. Not just to play the notes, but to play like you do." Elena smiled. "Music isn't about perfect technique, Miss Sterling. It's about perfect honesty." As they walked together through the empty hall, Victoria realized she'd spent her entire life building walls between herself and vulnerability, between success and humanity, between the comfortable and the uncomfortable truth that dignity isn't distributed according to paycheck stubs. The janitor had offered her something no acquisition could provide, a reminder that the most profound wealth isn't counted in dollars, but in the courage to remain open-hearted in a world that often rewards its opposite.